Episode 289 of the TV Dudes, recorded July 1st, 2020. HBOverstuffed. We haven't starting adding stuff in and rewatching, and I know Les is always watching like 6 shows I'm not watching. And and then Kyle threw in a show that he misunderstood the show that I had said I was watching, because those shows there's a lot of shows in 2020 that have similar names. You listed them off in our text chat, Kyle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you hit on the one I was thinking of and like 3 others.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not okay with this. Never have I ever. I know this much is true. I'll be gone in the dark. I may destroy you. Like, these are starting to run together, guys.
It's true. It's true. They're all very different shows, but their titles are the same.
A lot of them are really good shows. In fact, I don't know if there's I think all those so far have been, well, we're going to talk about 2 tonight. One that I didn't watch because, I turned on the wrong show. Well, and it was a British show, so I was like, oh, maybe they asked me to watch this on purpose. Like, oh, that's kind of cool.
There's so much TV you can accidentally find the wrong shit, and it's still going to be prestige television. It's not like there's just the one Sopranos or something.
Kyle, we'll never ask you to watch a British show. We assume your Brit sense will find it.
Yes.
You must have faith.
All right, so before we jump into all the shows, let's do Power Rankings.
Power Rankings.
Oh, fans of the show know what's happening here. This happens every week.
Did you guys hear the new theme music that Les found us last week?
What?
No, I did not hear it in practice.
Oh, yeah.
Actually,
our listeners will have just heard it because I just cut it in there again. But yeah, we got some theme music for Power Rankings, and it's perfect.
Awesome.
Well, of course, it's fantastic. Of course, I've heard it. It's amazing. I can hear it right now. Our production is just that good.
Fuck, I'm surprised we're not hearing it right now.
Well, I'm so used to it. I hear it. We get to this part of the show that's just like very, normal segment we do all the time. Mm-hmm. And I just hear it's like clockwork.
Yeah, you hear it in your head.
But yeah, no, kind of the method to the madness here is we go to IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, and Metacritic. We pull the scores for every single show we talk about. And for the year, we're almost up to 100 shows we've talked about. Yep. And we get these definitive rankings based on averaging the scores together, and kind of in the theme of like HBO overstuffed. I hit the overstuffed button on our spreadsheet this week, guys, and I got some pretty alarming results. Luckily, it's color-coded, and it's nothing I can't reverse, but what we've had going on is a lot of our shows are ranked really low on the list. Letterkenny's one of the big ones. It's like one of our favorite shows. And
damn it!
Yeah, I think Great Bake Off is ranked higher than Letterkenny. So what I did is I adjusted the way that it averaged our scores to like fill in all those zeros. And yeah, we got some kind of crazy results, and all of it were shows we talked about last week that have no business being in the top 20.
Yeah.
But here we go. Actually, before that, a show that was properly
Good
ranked.
Eats Reloaded takes the fucking...
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. I was like, there's no way Good Eats Reloaded is the
I'm sorry,
#1
I'm getting ahead of ourselves here.
No, you need to just read this. Read the top 13 of this crazy adjustment so people can see where things went wrong.
Oh, so if you are looking at... I did send you 3 spreadsheets. So
yes. Mm-hmm.
If you're looking at the one that's all adjusted, it's just the 13 shows that got the kind of... The boost this week. The
okay, they're not
overstuffed.
Yes, they're not the top. They're not the top rung. They're just those 13 shows.
Good Eats Reloaded is not #1 on our list, but if you do take the algorithm into account, it's #5 overall,
which is
pretty
crazy.
insane. Yeah. Yeah. But no, a show that was ranked and wasn't adjusted at all was The Politician, Season 2 over on Netflix, tied with another Netflix show, Dracula, for spot 73 on our list. And they had a 271 out of our 400-point ranking.
Man, I feel like both those shows should get a much higher ranking.
Oh, yeah, agreed. Yeah, no, I was kind of surprised more people weren't talking about Dracula. And maybe it was just because it wasn't very long, it just came and went.
Do the critics not like The Politician? Is that the deal? I see a 50% rating. That is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes. Damn.
That's crazy. I mean, I know Ryan Murphy has his detractors, but man, that is such a good show. I'm shocked.
Such a fun show.
Maybe it's Ryan Murphy fatigue because he is on a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I'd be.
So getting into some of the thumb on the scale stuff, number 31 on our list is a tie between Dead to Me over on Netflix and a show we talked about last week, which we all really liked, Hip Hop Evolution, over on Netflix as well.
Yeah.
It's just nothing but Netflix in our top 100. We need to do like
nothing but
the Netflix only
list.
Yeah. But no, yeah, Hip Hop Evolution did not have that ranking over on Metacritic. But when you put your thumb on the scale, it gets 330 tied for the 31st spot on our list, right behind another tie with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This is Taste the Nation that we talked about last week. Again, was lacking one of the rankings over there on Rotten Tomatoes, but when you adjust it, puts it in the number 28 spot. Which is like super high on our list. Most of the cooking and travel shows, they usually just get pushed to like, the end.
That's got 100% ranking on Rotten Tomatoes, like critics rating. Everybody liked it.
Critics rating. Well,
that's
and
crazy.
I think something else is it's probably the average, so we don't know how many critics did rank it. And that's the beauty
fair. of
this list. If somebody was listening and they want to like fudge it, they could go to that site and they could just start building accounts. Getting registered, doing their thing. I hope you don't, because this next one, it's ranked, I believe, accurately across all of the things we check, and that's number 26, The Beastie Boys Story, over on the Apple TV Plus service. What is the name of the Apple service?
Apple Plus, just like Disney Plus.
It's just Apple Plus?
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and lobby. I'm gonna start a change.org petition for this. I think... let's streamline the names of all the streaming services. So Apple Plus, Disney Plus, HBO Plus, CBS Plus. It should all that way we know that's your streaming network.
NBC Plus,
NBC Plus, Hulu Plus,
and then release generic versions: Hulu minus, Apple
Hulu
minus. Yeah, and that's where it's like maybe you only get like a certain amount of minutes a month where you can watch.
Yes.
No, I want knockoff like sold on the sidewalk in New York versions of all like Holo and Netflix and.
Well, I really hate this experiment because I knew when I saw this top show from last week that you guys were going to call bunkus on me, make me turn everything around. Because yeah, of course, it was a British show. Our number 13 spot, which might as well be a number 10. You're making out with top 10 in number 13 there. And that's Travel Man over on Hulu with starring Richard Ayoade. When you adjust it, it gets a 349 out of 400 on our rankings. And yeah, that's way too high for a travel show, a novelty show.
Outranking Miss America. Why do you hate America, Kyle?
Why do I hate America? Well, you see,
that's actually a fair question. Yeah. All right. Yeah. That's we're gonna unskew those polls next week, I think.
Yeah, it's just a flip of the switch, and then all that blue text is gone. But
I like the idea. I think there's
yes, we'll get this down.
Some tinkering should be done. Yes,
we will quantize.
It's not an exact science.
Television.
It's TV science.
Thank you.
It just works a little
Thank you,
different.
Dr. Kyle Scott, TV scientist.
Yes.
MDTV.
Kyle's going to perfect this formula and get zapped away to some kind of Mojo-verse where, like, Earth's premier television scientist.
Everything's in black and white till I start talking to people. And then they start turning colors.
I like this pitch, guys. They're going to be starved for content when we get back from the wastelands of COVID. Let's polish up this pitch. Kyle Scott, TV scientist, TV MD.
It writes itself.
Oh yes, Kyle Scott, TV MD.
All right, so let's change gears a little bit and talk old business. We wanted to revisit some stuff that maybe is not as fresh, but that has crossed our radar. And let's start off by talking about Stargirl over on CW, which Les, you and I had talked about early on. And Kyle, I can't remember how much you've watched of this, if any.
I was into it for a few episodes, and then I think we had shut Disney or the DC app down, and then I just didn't go back to HBO Max, which I know that's where it's at now.
It's not on HBO Max. It's on CW.
It's a CW show.
Doom Patrol is the one that split. So they've it's dumb. Seriously, it's like a group of kids getting split between divorced parents. It's weird.
It's like you need a strategy guide for
Doom Patrol.
Well, no, I was going to say you need like a strategy guide for 2020 TV. I kind of like a TV guide,
right?
To know like what streaming service has your show now.
Oh yeah, I lean on Just Watch a lot, and the Roku search.
Oh yeah, that's a really good app.
So CW puts this out on Wednesdays. Actually, because I really wanted to watch the episode last week on Monday, I did a 7-day free trial on DC to make it go one more week. But now it's on. I just had to adjust my brain on it. Now it's on Wednesdays. It's when it streams on the CW app, and it's the same show. It just is going to have like an occasional 3 minutes of the same AutoZone ad 6 times.
Yeah.
Which is weird, but
so Les, you and I think you're a little more plugged into the CW stuff than I am. I think you still watch all this stuff like candy.
Yeah. I still watch almost all of the CW shows. Stargirl though is it's just a lot of fun, and the effects and the fight scenes are really great. I think a mutual friend of ours on Facebook had pointed out this episode was directed by Leah Thompson. The most recent episode, Shiv Part 1, the most recent episode, is directed by Leah Thompson, and it's a hell of a fight scene. Like, Leah Thompson fucking kills it directing this fight. There's a lot of action in this most recent. I don't know, are you fully caught up?
I have not seen Shiv yet because of the CW DC app switch. So I've not
it just dropped today when we're recording this. So it is worth checking out just for watching. If you had any inclinations as to who, like, the head bitch cheerleader girl, like, who she is, this settles it. Like, who her dad is, this settles it. And it's kind of neat. Yeah.
I can't remember. You read the Stars and Stripe comic? Because
I had not. I think I texted you about it. Like, I didn't know shit about this. I knew some JSA weirdness.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that all of that is in the Stars and Stripes comic.
Oh, yeah. So, the thing that's missing from it is Starman is heavily involved in the Stars and Stripes comic, but the Jack Knight Starman, because he's like one legacy aspect and Courtney's another legacy aspect, and instead they've kind of combined it all in here. But Shiv is like a bad guy created for that comic. And Shiv's dad, the guy in like the green serpent hood and all that, was also, I believe, created for that comic. Yeah. But I also like that in the mix of all of that, we've got all this crazy JSA stuff. Like, I love Artemis or Tigress and Sportsmaster and their daughter Artemis, which is such a great nod back to stuff we've seen done in Young Justice.
And they managed to make Sportsmaster like actually scary for as dumb a villain as he can be.
Yeah, just like in Young Justice where he was a badass. He's kind of cool here. The fight scene between him and the new JSA, where they just kind of whoop up on them, was really fun.
They really cast the right actor, too. He's got that, like, too intense, man, back the fuck off, like, energy coming off him. Like, they are way too hyper-competitive, the parents.
One of my favorite things about this is how much the villains dislike each other. Like, the Fiddler's they're all trying to run a different scheme, and the Fiddler is like, you keep killing the coaches. Like, just, like, stop killing the coaches.
And, well, in the most recent episode, you find out that what's going on exactly, like why I have blanking on her name, the Cynthia? Anyway, Cindy Brown.
Yeah.
Why she hates her stepmom so much, because her dad is the guy in the hood that's got minions that are clearly mind-controlled, and her stepmom is some kind of programmed doll, basically.
Okay.
And this is the second one, at least. So, like, there's some very dark, like, do not take this out on your stepmother. I do not have time to program one. Like, in a very, like, no.
Yeah.
I've been just kind of continually impressed. They've kept the pace up. It's only slow. It's slowed a hair. I wanted them to introduce more of the JSA members than what they've got, but they've got to let me meet these kids for a minute. I get it. I get
it too. They're teasing me with that damn pen.
Yeah. So in this one, they show off something else that was super obscure that I had to look up of like what JSA thing is that? Sir Justin.
Oh wow! Is that the Shining Knight?
Yes.
That's crazy.
So we haven't seen Victory yet. His horse,
horse.
But I'm sure we fucking will.
Yeah.
This show is not putting everybody in hoodies. Like, this show is not shying away from it. But yeah, their school janitor has no memory and a crazy beard and speaks a little too eloquently. And in the middle of all of his like mop shit, there's in the back of it you can see this old sword.
I think the thing I really appreciate about this is that they're just like throwing all this crazy shit out. They are not embarrassed at all by it, but it doesn't feel super hokey. Like it feels like CW hokey. It's enjoyably hokey.
I'm impressed. This granted at this stage I also had incredibly high hopes for Runaways, and Runaways got so dumb so fast.
Yeah.
But right now, this is better set up to me than Runaways. This currently makes more sense than Runaways. We're not yet at a point where everybody's denial of wanting to go fight and stuff is it makes no sense. Like, they've managed to keep Pat making sense.
Right.
His level of concern.
Yeah.
We are about to break the tension. Like, we're about to strain to the breaking point. The inability for the villains for anybody to figure out who the fuck everybody is in this small of a town.
Yeah, that's true.
There's one kid at your school with hair like Stargirl.
Yeah.
One girl. Like, I remember being in high school, you'd have pulled that yearbook out and pored over that until you found who had that hair. You'd have found 2-3 kids tops that look anything like Stargirl, and then your dad just kills all 3 of them and you're set.
That was the first thing my wife said. She has really curly hair, and she saw me watching, and she goes, her curl game is on point.
And so, like, all these kids, Hourman, the kid playing Hourman, has got the best shot at not being fucking recognized.
Right, because he's just a white guy.
Yeah. All the rest of you are dead. Also, everybody keeps yelling, like, Pat in particular keeps barging into rooms and yelling not code names. Like you can't be outside of a room running down a hall towards a fight and yell court. Like, yell
spot on
star
impersonation, by the way.
it drives me nuts. Like, especially because part of the plot right now is that the Injustice Society is actively trying to figure out who the fuck they're almost certain that they're all kids. And they're going to figure out who they are.
Yeah.
And so, like, at this point, all it takes is just somebody yelling court. And, I mean, if you even hear the, like, sound and see that hair, they've not shown their villains to be stupid.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of waiting. Like, honestly, at this point, though, I have enough faith in the show that I think the shoe's going to drop. I think next episode.
But it's DC, so it's Clark Kent in the glasses.
Yeah.
Suspension of disbelief.
Can't be that lame girl. Those kids are losers.
All right, let's divert over to another one. This is over on Disney Plus. This is their behind the scenes for. It's called Disney Gallery The Mandalorian, and it was a 8-part. Basically, looks like they sat down Jon Favreau and a bunch of the directors and the stars, and they did an extended interview about the show and making the show. They taught sort of freewheeling talk, the kind of thing that Favreau used to do when he did Dinner for Five. And then they also showed us some behind-the-scenes footage and stuff, and they chopped it up into 8 episodes. And the result is this kind of heartfelt, like, I know that this is Disney propaganda, like, I get it, but at the same time, I'm like, they all really care about this. Like, they all really put their heart and soul into this show, and they all really had a lot of fun making it. And they did a good job of convincing me that, hey, this is all just these great Hollywood kids who came to put on a show.
And the person who I think loves it the most, hands down, Dave Filoni.
Man, Dave Filoni loves Star Wars more than anyone else on this planet.
When you heard him talk about Qui-Gon Jinn, which I could see where, like, a lot of people would just be like, whatever, Clone Wars, who cares? But, like, man, he talked about Qui-Gon Jinn and, like, that's Anakin's father. He lost his father. That's why he went to the dark side, because his father wasn't there. It's all Darth Maul. And he obviously did it way better than I just did on Mike. But afterwards, I had like a tear coming down my eye, like, if Qui-Gon had only, survived.
Well, I think that's the secret of why Clone Wars and Rebels works so well, is that Filoni gets the Star Wars universe in a way, and he reveres George Lucas. It's clear he talks about George Lucas and credits him for all this. But I'm like, man, Filoni gets this better than Lucas at this point. Like, he understands that Lucas is all like, well, it's got to be for kids. That's his guideline. And Filoni gets the themes and the character relationships, and that's why he can take stuff that didn't work in film and make it work in the Clone Wars and work in a TV show. And that's why I think Mandalorian has that sort of feels very Star Wars. And at the same time, Favreau brings in this outside appreciation of like just the craft of filmmaking and of like doing things on kind of an indie budget. And I mean, we know from past interviews that Iron Man was sort of thrown together by Favreau and Downey Jr. And it sounds like as big that Favreau's one of these guys who can keep the indie film spirit alive when he's doing big budget stuff, and that is a rare gift.
Yeah, and I don't think it's an understatement to say the production of this show is going to change filmmaking in a pretty big way.
Yeah,
because up until now we've kind of been at the mercy of green screen technology, which is like the most most efficient way of doing like large scale movies like this, like
right.
Endgame when it came out, huge green screen sets, This set they've built for Mandalorian, this Void set, works perfect with that shiny armor he has because they're literally projecting everything you see in the background, and that reflects off of all the surfaces. It reflects off the iris of the eyes of the actors. Mm-hmm. Like, there's just so much you can do, and it's funny, you learn how Jon Favreau has been kind of sneaking in the pre-production, like the stuff you had to do before you could get to this point on all his other Disney movies. Like, hey, we should do a test with this thing just in case we want to shoot Lion King on a big, get a real lion and, a big LCD screen set.
I've got your confidence and money for this other project.
Yeah. But, he put it all together, and then he can come to him on this one and go, hey, we did these tests. We know it's going to work. The technology's here. Let's do it. And he got the money, and now everybody's going to be making shows and movies like this.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like this behind the scenes both shows how the technology works, which is fascinating enough, but it's also like shows like the way they talk to Cara Dre, who's the lead female. I'm blanking on her name now.
Give me 5.
Oh my God, Cara Dune, but I cannot remember the actress's name, and I can't remember
the UFC fighter.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, they talked to her, and she clearly Gina Carano, and she didn't expect to be brought in for any of this. She's like, yeah, I get work because I like people know me, like Steven Soderbergh, and Soderbergh has put her on their radar, and it's like just this kind of lucky thing that they got someone who's sort of perfect for the role, and they really
everything she's done.
Yeah, they got it's that alchemy of like projects that don't work. I mean, if you look at the Star Wars prequels, there's plenty of talent in there, and it just didn't quite come together. And
the Peter Cushing find of this whole thing is Werner Herzog.
Oh yeah,
how you just stick him in there, he's already in a Star Wars universe.
Yeah, well, I love that
he's wearing his bathrobe.
He went native. He was like. Yeah, there's lots of little bits like that.
Cast him, they got to set it. He was there. No one felt like they could make him leave.
And he was just like, "I would like to see the baby.
Bring me the child."
I don't know. Make a baby character.
Anyway, this is if you're a fan of The Mandalorian and you like behind the scenes stuff at all, this is definitely worth a watch. I tried watching it with my 13-year-old because he really loved The Mandalorian. It's like one of the first shows he's sat and watched with me every week and asked me when it was going to be on. And he got about 10 minutes into this and it was a bunch of people talking. He was like, "I'm out." But if you like behind the scenes stuff. This is a really well done behind the scenes stuff, and it will remind you. It made me want to watch The Mandalorian again, which I've already watched it through like 3 times.
One of the really cool tidbits is the episode on the music, where you find out that Ryan Coogler's college roommate did the theme, and is just apparently like this musical badass.
Yeah.
Randy, you also went back and revisited a documentary that Kyle and I enjoyed all the way to the end earlier. You finished out McMillions, right?
Yeah, so I had seen episodes 1, 2, and like maybe half of 3 of McMillions, and I enjoyed this, but I'm not a huge documentary guy, and that sort of fell off my radar. And then I was watching it, and the person I watched TV with, she was in the mood for documentaries, and so we decided to go finish up the rest of McMillions. This thing took some turns, guys. Like toward the end, it took some real turns. Like I'd gotten to the point where there was like a mobster involved and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden the mobster gets killed in a car crash.
Yeah,
and then it's like they start talking more about who Uncle Jerry is, and then they sort of go deeper into what all this McMillion stuff was, and I started getting a little pissed actually because I'm like, man, when you see the punishments that came down, basically nobody lost in this. Like McDonald's didn't lose shit.
McDonald's never gave a fuck.
They didn't care. But they closed down 2 companies. They closed down Simon Marketing, and the only crime Simon Marketing had was that their security guy was a scumbag. And then they closed down Dittler Brothers Printing, and the only crime those guys had was that they weren't secure enough to catch the one inside man. But like because of this one dude, this one douchebag, Uncle Jerry, 2 companies went out of business, and people who had nothing to do with it lost their jobs. Like, and all those people got screwed.
The thesis of it is the people who were responsible for essentially selling hope. Oh, I hope I win. I hope I this. I hope I that. When everybody found out it was a sham, somebody had to go down. And, like, literally took down huge... These companies were gigantic.
Yeah.
And when you realize, like, all the business... I used to work at an advertising agency, and it was, like, a little-known secret. We had a tobacco client. And every day-to-day, we didn't work on a ton of tobacco stuff.
Right.
But, like, it was known if they left... The business would shut down.
That was it. And that's what happened here, yeah.
They pay us so much money, like, we are completely dependent on them. And, yeah, this is 2 companies completely dependent on McDonald's.
Yeah, and it's crazy. But then they do that twist in episode 5 where they're like, yeah, there was an informant. And I was like, wait, what? And the whole 6th episode is about the informant, and they're telling you who it might be. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And it isn't. And when they finally reveal who it is, I'm like, oh, man, that's good. I did not spot that. You guys hid that well.
It is true. I mean, different than Tiger King, but in the similar vein. Like, it is just like stupid, almost pitiable characters after stupid, almost pitiable character.
Yep.
Peppered in with some like, nah, whatever happens to you, I'm gonna laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. By the end of it, I felt really bad for anyone who had worked at Simon Marketing or Dittler Brothers Printing. But other than that,
half the people that took a ticket, frankly, I felt bad for. There were a couple of the people that took the tickets from them where I'm like, you knew it was wrong, but you were in a position where you can't say no to something like that.
I didn't feel bad for the farmer dude, though. I was like, yeah, he's dumb. But he took money, and he's acting like he's all innocent. He got this high-powered lawyer, and he did just fine for himself. But he's acting like, I didn't do anything wrong. I thought I was hiding assets for a divorce. And I'm like, no, fuck you, dude. That's still a crime.
Man, it's still, like, I've watched enough Hustle, man. You can't con an honest John. Like, you knew something was up.
You can't con an honest. Love it. No, the thing that's different between this and Tiger King is, like, Tiger King was nothing but villains.
Yeah.
It was like nothing but villains.
Oops, all villains.
Yeah. But this, you do get some redeemable characters. And, like you were saying, some of the people that got involved, like, imagine if your friend had shown up, like somebody who you trusted, and was like, dude, I just got this thing, and has a plausible story. Hell yeah, McDonald's is going to give me $1 million. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, not knowing, it's just the beginning.
I'm going to go on record here, Kyle. I do not want your McDonald's game piece.
I got the M&M, the special pink M&M. It's sitting in my freezer in a piece of tinfoil. Don't eat it. Don't wake up in the middle of the night and eat it.
The arc that really sucked me in is Agent Drunk History. I can't remember his real name.
Matthews. But
yeah.
He is... In the first episode, his obvious irritation and boredom with what his real job is, which is like Medicare fraud paperwork, and how much that is not the swashbuckling FBI agent that he thought he was going to Quantico or wherever the fuck I don't even know where they school. Is that Quantico?
It is Quantico, yep.
All right. And then his opportunity, like, no, guys, we got to do this McDonald's thing. It's going to be the best. And then it just gets better and worse at the same time.
Agent Drunk History. I can't believe that motherfucker still works for the FBI. And I also love, there's a bit...
And he's not incompetent. He's actually very good at a lot of when he goes undercover, I'm waiting for it to just blow up.
Well...
I mean, he's not exactly competent, but he's not... It's not like he's Mr. Magoo.
No, he's very good at certain things, like acting like a goofy producer type, like it fits him. But let's be clear here. He is 100% the guy who accidentally faxed the whole story to a newspaper. Like,
totally.
Like he says it's not him,
and
but
I
it was
still don't
absolutely
get
him.
I still don't get how any criminal part of how this all works is how stupid these criminals are.
Oh yeah, they're all dumb.
I mean, on the one hand, it's not a bad scam. It worked, more or less. But how you could be in a room with that dude and not think narc is beyond. like you seem like a nice enough guy, but also narc.
Yeah, your shirt's tucked in kind of tight to your khakis,
right.
bro.
Yeah, but after Tiger King, this all seems somewhat tame. It's not as entertaining, but if you finish Tiger King and you want another crazy true life story,
something that straddles the line between true crime and Tiger King.
Yeah,
not that Tiger King's not a true crime.
Yeah, that's McMillions is that. And then finally, while casting about for some stuff to watch, I have a giant list of stuff to catch up on. But for some reason, I still find myself like going through Netflix's listings and be like, what else is on here? And I found #BlackAF, which is Kenya Barris's new show, and he's the guy who did Blackish, Grownish, Mixedish.
All the issues. In fact, they give him shit about that. In one of the episodes, he tries to put together like a black Illuminati and gets told immediately that, like, no, somebody else has already put that together, not you. You're not invited to it.
Yeah. And so, Les, I think you perfectly nailed this. If Blackish is Seinfeld, Black AF is Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Very much so. Very much so.
It is about Kenya. It is about his life, his 6 kids who all are super interesting characters, and his wife played by Rashida Jones.
I don't want to pry into his personal life to find this out for real because I don't want to go digging for the TMZ or what. But man, if one of his kids is really named Pops, that is badass. Also, the kids themselves crack me up. There's a moment early on where, like, I think the littlest brother looks up at the camera during the mock interviews and is like, "Wait, he's older than me?"
Yeah.
And like, because like Pops, like the next kid up, is like really scaredy cat, like weird kid and won't do anything, and then like this younger kid's super bold. And then from that moment forward in the show, the little brother makes a point of calling him like, "Cool, little bro. What's up, little bro?" Like the whole time.
Also, the conceit of why they're filming this documentary style, because his daughter is making basically a pitch for film school, is such a clever way. It's a clever way to do the documentary film. So
it's not like that Onion article about The Office of like, we're all fired for this. We shot 40,000 feet of film for which should have been a B-roll commercial. And, like they actually bring it back around. Like the show literally closes with like, "Thank you NYU" or whatever, wherever she's applying.
Also, I'm only halfway through. I think I just got through the Fiji episode, and they're doing some stuff with him and his wife where they're literally falling apart. Like it is not just like funny, like haha tension. It is like, oh, our marriage is not okay.
My only complaint really about the show is that to me they pull off a little bit of a sitcom cuteness, like. You have genuine grievances with each other, and you just decide, fuck it, we still love each other. Which happens, and I get it, but also, like, I was very impressed that they seem to be bringing up some, like, genuine grievances, and I don't know that, for me, they quite brought it back around and didn't just kind of end the season. There is a moment where, like, the thing that teaches him a lesson about why he's, like, fighting with his wife, he starts watching Blackish at one point. Like, he's sad. He's like, I'm going to watch some TV. And he flips on Black. He's like, such a good show. and that shit is priceless. Like, Kenya Barris playing himself is really funny. I had started to watch this show, I think when I first noticed, I guess when it first dropped on Netflix. and I had not seen a stitch of Blackish. I didn't know really anything about any of these shows. I haven't watched Curb Your Enthusiasm much either. So even the setup conceit of the show wasn't quite up my alley. I watched the Blackish episode on Juneteenth. It was on Juneteenth, but they have an episode about Juneteenth.
Right.
And it's at once sharply fucking written. Like that show, like that episode is great, and everybody ought to go watch it. It's really funny, but also Blackish is a sitcom that should be syndicated at 5:30 in the afternoon. I say that with all like the highest praise of like long running sitcoms. There's a place for that show, but I don't really want to watch it. And then I went, oh shit, there's like a prestige format version of this that I can go watch.
Yeah,
and that's when I went back to watch Blackish, and that's exactly what it is. Like if you've ever thought, Black as fuck, Black AF.
No, my show like that, the afternoon syndicated long running show, Mama's Family. Always go back to that.
Ah, yes.
Perfect for that format.
Yeah, see, I watched a few episodes of Blackish. I watched the first couple because I love Anthony Anderson, and I was like, this is okay. And then I watched the Spotlight episode where they talk about Obama being elected and how they were worried he was going to get assassinated, and they it was the talk about the cops. And it was a good episode, and I'm like, it was their very special episode, and I'm like, okay, this show can go places. Like, I like this show, but it's a little bit too tame. It's a little bit too sitcom-y, and Black AF is what I wanted it to be, and I actually think I like this so much better.
He's so neurotic too.
Like,
he is a very Larry David-y. Like, he gets in his head about, and Rashida Jones is just as nuts. Like, I love the casting of her. Like, they are great together in this. I would recommend everybody go back and watch it. It didn't click with me when I watched the very first episode. Going back and giving it a couple of eps so that I could really meet the characters. It's a damn funny show.
My one gripe with it, it's an hour long. The episodes are too long. Like they don't feel like they're wasted. Like, it doesn't feel long. Like I'm like, oh no, it's always enjoyable. But I was watching it and I was like, how am I not through more episodes of this show yet? And I realized, oh, these are hour-long episodes, and it's not like a dramedy. It is a straight-up comedy show.
No, it's a straight-up comedy. You're right. I don't think I put that together.
And so it's a little weird. It's a little weird to me.
Let them play.
It's a little weird to me that like this is an hour-long show. It feels like it's kind of like the new Twilight Zone. It's like, yes, you can make it work in this format, but really it should be 30 minutes or 40 minutes.
It'd be on fire. I mean, you'd be madcap on fire. Like, I might be wetting myself at this thing for 30-minute episodes.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my one minor gripe, but it is definitely worth a watch. Yeah. Alright, so just a quick reminder that if you want to support us, you can go over to patreon.com/tvdudes, throw us a buck an episode, and in return, we get to keep all our various streaming services running and pay for our web hosting, all our stuff that gets us in on Stitcher and all that kind of stuff. And in exchange, you get bonus-free content every week. Well, I guess bonus content. It's not free because there's a Patreon attached. But you get bonus content every week. And right now, we're making our way to the Fast and Furious franchise. This week, we're going to talk about Fast 5, which for me is where the show where it turns into a thing I love almost as much as the MCU.
Does it turn into it hard? Pun intended.
It does. It drifts. It drifts right into it.
We were talking about Gina Carano earlier.
Uh-huh.
I skipped ahead to Fast 6 after I finished Fast 5. Oh, yeah, she's totally up in there kicking ass.
Yeah, she is.
Is she?
Yep, she's in 6.
We got that to look forward to next week.
So, join us over at Patreon. Throw us a fucking episode. If you want to get crazy, there are a couple other levels. There is the showrunner level, which is $20. And if you do the showrunner level, you get to pick 2 shows for us to watch. And my friend Mandy, who became so delighted with us when we did JoJo's, thanks to another patron, Charles Armstrong, that she started following us and listening to all our back episodes. She determined that she was going to make us watch some more anime, and she just joined the showrunner level. And so we have a couple animes coming our way. She is agonizing and waiting in a way that I believe is similar to the work that Kyle puts in on the power rankings to figure out what the second anime she's going to require us to watch is. But she has picked Kill La Kill on Netflix, so that is going in the rotation in the next few weeks. And and we're going to be adding a little more anime. So yes, you can also join the Patreon and not ask us to watch more anime. Like, you can ask us to watch other shows.
Like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay, let's, you know what?
Though,
no, never mind.
Whenever you mention this to people, they're always like, wait, $20 and you watch whatever I want?
I can make you watch anything?
That sounds so fun.
All right, so let's talk new business, gentlemen. HBO is the focus this week. And
Overstuffed.
Yeah, seriously. So let's jump in first with their new show, which is an HBO show, Perry Mason.
Oh yeah, they've been advertising this on everything.
So I'm curious, did you guys watch Perry Mason at all? Are any of you guys Perry Mason fans?
I am aware of Perry Mason, but I couldn't tell you if I've ever actually watched one. I think every memory I think I have of Perry Mason is actually an Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
Is it just... I remember the theme song. Mm-hmm. And I remember a comedian who used to riff on the theme song, and that's it. That's all I know.
We had kind of we lived at a house where, oh my gosh, long story, but my parents would play TV Land every night. So I'd literally fall asleep to Perry Mason all the time. So yeah, really like intimate with that theme song. But then also like kind of understand the format, which is completely different than what we were watching here on HBO.
Right.
I thought he was the lawyer.
I did too. I thought he was a lawyer. I thought he was a lawyer, and
what I think I remember about Perry Mason is courtroom scenes with these huge aha reveals where somebody breaks on the stand or doesn't take the fifth and fucks themselves over or some shit.
So yeah,
because I remember Perry Mason as this like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington level, like that's not how it is.
So that is Perry Mason. The original Perry Mason was Hollywood's first weekly 1-hour show filmed for television, one of the longest running and successful legal themed, and he was a criminal defense lawyer.
Raymond Burr, right?
Played by Raymond Burr. And I guess they did a new Perry Mason in 1973, which was also a defense attorney show. Well, in this one...
I'm not nuts. He was the lawyer. Okay.
He was the lawyer. And that's what I was expecting, too. And so in the new one, he is a private eye...
Which means he's on the stand. He's still in court a couple times.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lawyer character, and he's played by John Lithgow.
Which is no schlub. That guy's going to go far, I think.
Yeah, I think he'll do all right.
He's also a farmer, and I think in the first episode, when he goes to court, it's over the farm.
So this is set in 1932 Los Angeles. It's very L.A. Confidential-esque, although it's 20 years before all that. It's post-World War I, pre-World War II. Mm-hmm. But it's like 30s PI, and it's dark. I mean, it starts with
real dark.
It starts with a baby being murdered.
Oh god, when they're unstitching that kid's eyes,
that is
triggering.
Man.
Like abuse towards children. Oh, that's triggering.
It's dark. And I mean, and it's literally dark. Like the tones are muted. It's got a very. I mean, it feels very World War I period.
He said, I got a mustard stain. It's like, I don't see anything. You got like 50 shades of gray on your shirt.
I got an egg stat. That was actually, so my favorite character moment or like tone moment for the whole show was in the first episode, was the moment where Lithgow's like, you got an egg stain on your tie. I think it's egg.
Yeah.
And he touches it and tastes like licks his finger to wipe it off his tie, and then stops and licks his finger again, and then licks it again, and he doesn't say anything right then. But later on, somebody's like, "You got an egg stain on your tie," and he's like, "It's mustard, actually." It turns out it's mustard, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's great." Overall, though, man, this was just slow and dark and.
Oh, even
and I don't want to watch you. I made it almost all the way through the first episode and was like, I'm good.
That's interesting.
I think even before you start it, the marketing for this was slow, dark, and icky. Like, I watched the preview for this every time and was like, oh, I gotta like set aside time to watch that show and like.
I might return to this. It's well made. I mean, it is gorgeous. It's but
So it's interesting.
The guy that's the main actor,
Matthew Rhys from Americans.
He's like a wiped out spot on a piece of film. Like he is Joel Kinnaman, who's Captain Boomerang. Like he's that level of blank spot.
Oh man,
period piece.
I could not disagree more. I love Matthew Rhys here. I think he's like a haunted.
I know his name from movies where he was good, but and he's not doing a bad job here. It's just like Perry's part of the wallpaper.
Oh, I think we're supposed to be getting. He's got what the equivalent of PTSD. He was in World War I. He's like a shattered man, and that's why he can do this. He can go on this case. He's the guy who can handle this because it's about like a dead kid, and most people will be like just too overwhelmed. And he's like emotionally, he's got nothing left. So he's like, yeah, dead baby, that's fine. I can handle that. I think I came at this in a totally different way you guys did. I loved this first episode. I think
I'm gonna have to file this away and watch it in another like next year.
Oh man,
another time period because I started watching it was like.
Oh no, I was super into this. I thought I thought it looked amazing. I thought the period is fantastic. I love Matthew Rhys' sort of world weary. I'm also a big noir fan, and this is straight up noir. Like the world is terrible, and they're in the midst of. I was
excited about this, but I get the feeling that we're not going to solve this murder, and we're just going to find out that like all of humanity's shit.
Well,
like I don't know. Like, I really wanted some kind of resolution, and not to like end up starting from a dark place and end up in a hole we dug during the episode.
Well, this is a miniseries. This is I feel like this is in the True Detective vein. Like we're going to get one complete story, but we haven't even met in the first episode. We haven't met everybody. Like Tatiana Maslany has a major role in this, and we haven't even seen her yet.
I was expecting there to be like a crime solved every week.
That was what I think I was expecting, something at least close to that.
If they had done that, if they had made this like the procedural that Perry Mason was, I could not be less interested. This is Perry Mason.
Well,
this is Perry
Mason. It doesn't have to be a procedural, but
that's what it is. If a crime solved every week, it's a procedural.
The other thing is, I feel like I watched this last year on TNT about who was the Zodiac killer. Oh shit, I can't remember the
Zodiac killer.
No, the
Mr. Zodeo.
He may or may not have had a daughter, and they did a miniseries about it last year with Chris Pine.
Oh yeah, that one.
It had very much the same.
That had a 2020 name too, like "I will go with you into the night."
Yeah,
I am the night, or I kill the night, or I am the night, or something like that.
I liked that first episode, but it didn't quite grab me as much. I think partly I don't like Chris Pine as much as I like Matthew Rhys, but also I don't know, man. Something about this. Like the darkness of it all, and the notion of like there's this unfolding story that I think is going to touch on various corrupt elements of Los Angeles in 1932, and just the fact that Lithgow gives an amazing performance. I know Tatiana Maslany is going to be great. Like I am all in for this. I cannot wait to see more of this. It reminds me of what I liked about True Detective.
I realized sitting down to go ahead, Kyle.
That sex scene. You got to talk about that sex scene in episode 1.
Oh yeah.
I mean, HBO is known for having some spicy sex scenes, but I mean, they tear this dude's place up.
Yeah,
like they're falling in between like the mattress and the side of the wall, and like they're not stopping. There's
still a moment in that sex scene where I would swear he's a mannequin that she's fucking.
Yeah, they definitely went all in on sex and violence and dark. Like everything is very visceral.
The hot gun barrel was something I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
That shit was crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot to this, and it's well made. Like I feel like I'm going to need to revisit it. It was it's not Perry Mason.
Yeah, which I'm cool with. He's totally cool.
But like the two things that I thought I knew about the show I was sitting down to watch, like why use the name? Like I thought he was a lawyer, and I figured we'd solve a crime, and instead I got like the world's darkest 1 hour intro to a case. And I don't know anything about this show, so like I mean I didn't see any of the marketing because HBO is terrible if you don't have HBO like that. So as like I didn't know Lithgow was in it, I didn't know Tatiana Maslany would show up eventually. Like as these things kept happening, each thing should be good news, and it was each moving me further and further away from the show I was expecting, and and John Lithgow's in this. What am I watching? So I think I'm going to give it another shot when I'm not expecting a wholly different fucking show.
If this show turns out to be a hit and it's good, everybody who does a podcast about this show is going to use that original Perry Mason theme in their like theme song for their podcast. It'll be like the 8-bit version of it, like, you know, chip hop techno remix.
Yeah, but man, for me this was like LA Confidential meets True Detective. This was so up my alley. I was in love with this show. So it is dark. Like, I haven't watched the second episode because it's one of those I got to prep for. I got to get in that headspace. But I'm all for it.
My theory about why they use the Perry Mason name, but like they haven't really taken anything else from that classic TV show, which I think it's based on another property. But I feel like if this was a show about like the Lindbergh baby kidnapping or something, and it had that historical element to it, like it'd probably be an instant hit. Like people would just get buy-in. So by connecting it with something that is historical, even though you're not really drawing on the history people remember, I think they're trying to scratch that itch for like, oh, it's part of American history. So
what's interesting here is I look at IMDb and they describe it. The pitch is in booming 1932 Los Angeles, a down and out defense attorney takes on the case of a lifetime. So I'm like, oh, so he is he is actually an ex defense attorney.
Okay, but now he's a PI. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Lithgow walks in at one point to his party like, I don't think this PI thing's working out for you.
Yeah. He's like he was a defense attorney and now he's a PI. Yeah.
Oh, everything you're saying about it, Randy, is the reasons why I was really expecting to dig this. It just didn't land as the show I thought it was going to be. I'm definitely going to have to give it another shot.
All right, so let's jump over to Doom Patrol Season 2, which is now moved over to HBO Max, which kind of feels like it belongs there. Like it was too weird and adult for even the DC app.
If they'd said it was moving to CW, that wouldn't be okay. Unless they were starting some kind of like CW Midnight Skinemax kind of thing.
CW After Dark.
Like, right? So, did everybody finish out Doom Patrol Season 1?
I did. I although I don't remember the last couple, so when I jumped into this, I was like,
I had a moment of like, why are we small?
So they start out and they're all shrunk down. They're living on this like little model train village. And the thing is, I know Doom Patrol, and so I've not read a lot of it, but I know of it, and so I was like, okay, we're small now. Got it. I didn't need to go back and get the explanation of how that happened.
I've forgotten, but it picks up exactly from what happened at the end of the. So at the end of season 1, they're fighting Mr. Nobody on Danny the Street, which he is ripped out and pulled to another dimension. And the cockroach and the rat are both there, giant, like stomping around like Godzilla.
Yeah, I remember that now.
And in order to Larry figures out the negative spirit can rip a hole through the dimension, but none of them can survive going through it except him. So they figure out that the cockroach will survive the radiation. That the issue with going through a dimensional rip is specifically radiation. And so they get themselves eaten by the cockroach. And then it goes through the rift, and so Larry is the only full-sized one because he just walked through it.
Yeah.
And they're all tiny because they were inside a cockroach, which is now normal cockroach size in the real world, and they're small enough to have been eaten by it. So like they climb out of the cockroach, like it's Doom Patrol.
Can I just say that if someone was not watching Doom Patrol and they just listen if they just listen to your description, they're going to assume that you're tripping balls right now, and you're trying to describe
all of that.
You're going to describe some kind of trip that you had.
Right? It's like Yahoo Serious Film Festival. You know what those words mean, but not in that order.
I do feel like if you stayed in a mansion like they live in, tripping on acid by yourself, you would see this stuff happen.
Yeah.
Like, you would experience these stories.
So we pick up with that.
So there's still 2 of them in the painting.
Yeah.
That are trapped inside the magic painting, and that's Mr. Nobody and the beard dude.
Yeah.
That eats the beard hair.
The beard hunter, yeah.
Yes.
So they start with all that, and that's where they're at, and they're all shrunk down. And at the same time, they're introducing a new character, Dorothy Spinner, who
we have an interview with the actress who plays Dorothy this week.
And that is the chief's daughter, and she is immortal in the same way that he is, although that's a whole thing, his search for immortality. And she's got these imaginary friends who she can bring into the world, and they're all scary. Like there's a big Yeti type creature, and there's something that's like looks like a candle thing.
That thing is freaking amazing. The character design on that creepy fucking Titan thing.
They did a great job with all of this. Yeah.
Awesome. And I loved it to summon that thing. I didn't put it together till later, but that candle grows in the middle of her hand and she makes a wish.
Yeah.
And that's when the candle creature thing appears.
Yeah. There's that, and then there's I know a little bit about this. Like I don't know these characters, but I feel like I'm like the candle maker. I think I recognize that name and all this stuff. But then they keep bringing in like weirder shit, and they're doing and then in the midst of all of this, they have created some of the most interesting characters, like the girl who plays Crazy Jane from Orange is the New Black.
Dinah Guerrero.
She is amazing in this, playing different multiple personalities.
And Jane's whole deal with herself and the realization that Jane is the first alter, that Kay is really who she is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like there's a moment in I think the first or second episode where they show the decision point of like, I'm going to send up Jane instead from the underground or wherever. I think it's the underground is what they call.
Yeah.
Or down space.
Yeah.
Like all of that is just wild. Like the fact that she's basically powerless for a huge portion of the first couple of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's literally drugged most of her alters to sleep.
Yeah. There's
just you couldn't do this shit without the time they spent on these characters in season 1.
They also they're going some crazy places. The crazy disco time traveling dude, and
oh my god, I had completely forgotten about that. And what they already know about the chief, but what that whole adventure teaches them about the chief and what he's willing to send them off to do. I was not prepared for how exactly that goes wrong.
And then Red Jack. They're crazy, like Hellraiser-esque Jack the Ripper guy.
And that is some Grant Morrison through and through.
Yeah.
Like, same with them doing the whatever fucking murder butlers or bastards or some oh god from the first season.
And then Vic is off. Vic is off doing his thing and having a relationship with someone else. And like, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with all these characters. Like, I burned through these 3 episodes and just like, man, I missed this show. I love that they are going these crazy places and bringing all these Morrison characters in. And I'm glad they're doing the HBO like 3 episodes at a time thing. Although I guess that's not the release date normally. Normally it's gonna be one a week now.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was wondering if they were going to keep that up. I was really hoping they were.
No, sadly
this
not.
This show is if Legion were to be the centerpiece for like an Arrowverse, this would be the Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, for sure.
Like the only superhero show that I can put this in that would make sense on a network with is Legion.
Yeah, no, I can see that. It's not exactly the same thing, but it's got like
Legion mixed with a little Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, because you're gonna have. I mean, their big bad in season 1 is a villain whose power is to basically narrate you.
Yeah, if you were to tell me, if someone's like, I like Legion, is there any other shows like that? Then yeah, I'd be like, oh, Doom Patrol, and same vice versa.
Closest thing.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything exactly like each other, but
if you like one, you're likely to like the other. Weird.
Yeah, and I had forgotten that the level of. I mean, the show's always weird. It starts out with the donkey thing.
Yeah,
but when they get to the fucking magical, like by the time they start having to deal with magic in season 1, which I had forgotten until they brought back Willoughby,
right?
How fun their take on magic was, but like I love the whole creepy place they go to where Jane's crazy powerful and like all of her fucking alters and shit in season 1 is nuts. But then in season 2, when they bring back Willoughby, I forgot that all of his spells and cantrips and shit are updated for popular culture.
Yeah.
So he makes the chief sing dumb shit and twirl parasols and stuff.
By the way, speaking of Willoughby, that guy's definitely a Constantine stand-in, right? Like he was supposed to be Constantine, but they already had him on Legends Tomorrow.
You know what? I would bet you're right.
Because he feels like a Constantine type dude.
Yeah, it's a little more whimsy, but it's that same like drunk annoyance.
Yeah, I bet you that was like he's the Constantine stand-in.
You're right. I'd love to know if Willoughby's in the. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Willoughby's in the comics, or if it's Constantine and they made Willoughby up for the show.
Yeah.
Now I want to find out.
All right, so let's jump over to another HBO show, and let's talk about I May Destroy You, which, Kyle, you watched by accident.
Yeah, but this turned out to be a happy accident, which we're in a golden age of TV when you can, like, still turn on stuff accidentally and be like, oh, this is cool, I'm into this.
Yeah.
Which, you get to the end of the first episode, and there's a little bit of a tone shift. So my description may not be a good description for the whole series.
Yeah, but I don't know anything about it. So what is the premise?
Yeah.
What's this about?
So we are introduced to this character, Arabella, who is in Italy, but we can tell she's got an English accent, and she's catching a cab back to England. And we're just kind of hit with some quick exposition. She's a writer. She's also on deadline, like 24 hours. She's supposed to have been in Italy, writing her book, but she's there with, her boyfriend, and they've obviously been just partying, and, she's definitely not taking, responsibility or whatever for this book. And then when she gets back to England, we find out, oh no, she's actually like a pretty, like, well-known writer. People are stopping her on the street to get selfies. They want to get their pictures taken. All the while, she's still being stalked by her, I guess her agent or her manager, who's like, you got to get this manuscript done. You got to get it done. And we watch just like cringeworthy scenes where she does everything but get her work. And they're like, we literally need it tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. And she's got the adrenaline. She's just come back in from out of the country. Her friends are like, meet us at this bar. Let's do this. Like 20 minutes, just real quick. We'll do that. And she's set up in what looks like her publisher's office in downtown London. And yeah, it's like 10 o'clock at night. She's not writing anything. So she's like, fuck it. She goes out. And yeah, she just begins a night of partying. She meets up with her friend Simon, who we see has got something going on with his wife and a girl they met on Tinder, and they're trying to get like their first threesome going. But the girl's not into it. She leaves, and then the wife's like, oh, I'm going to leave too, only to find out he's got a little something on the side with this Tinder girl he met, and the whole thing was just a ruse to get alone with this girl so they could, fool around. And we start to see like all these characters that she interacts with, aren't necessarily the most truthful people. Mm-hmm. And you're imagining, oh, this is like Sex in the City. This is like Girls, it's going to be how she can party and still get her work done, da-da-da. And all of a sudden it goes from kind of this just intense, like, what is she going to do, to the next morning, she's typing on her computer, and she looks haggard, all right? Typing on her computer, and she's like, done. And we don't really see it, and her publishers come in, and they react to her work, and, it's just this really weird, awkward scene, and then we notice she's bleeding. And the publishers are like, hey, you need to get out of here. Have you slept yet? And she's like, no. And she hasn't slept the whole time. And she leaves, and she's got like amnesia. She's blacked out the night before. And right at the end of the episode, we get kind of like this glimpse into what, episode 2 and the rest of the season is going to be. And yeah, it's like something really violent and really bad has happened to her. But we have no clue, and she has no clue. And when you go into the beginning of the season after that first kind of like feel-good episode, it feels a lot like that movie Brick, that Rian Johnson movie.
Okay.
Where she's like trying to go back through, and she's like, what happened last night? Her phone's broken, all right? Her head's busted. And you get to see her retrace her steps, and everybody's like kind of lying or is like treating her different, and nobody's like giving it to her straight. Until you get to the end, and it's like one of the most realistic scenes I've ever seen about, like sexual violence or just violence of any type. Mm-hmm. And right now, I think there's only 4 episodes on HBO Max. I'm on episode 3, where we get a good flashback to like what she was doing right before the start of all this. And I actually read a quick description, which I think like kind of sums up what they're trying to do, which is explore the question of sexual consent in like contemporary life and like dating and relationships. You know, what's liberation and what's exploitation.
Right.
Because, yeah, this girl's famous, you know. She's obviously had a successful book. She's got money. And, like, none of this stuff protects her from, you know, doing drugs in excess and, you know, being a victim of, like, predators out there in, like, the club and the nightlife scene.
So a little context here, as I looked at Wikipedia just to see. This is written, created, and starred, co-directed by Michaela Coel. Or Michaela Coel. Mm-hmm. So she wrote a play called Chewing Gum Dreams, and she did a show called Chewing Gum based off of it. And I guess that this is based on her own experience of sexual assault.
Oh.
From what I've heard about the early praise on this show, it was in the realistic and well done handling of this without being puerile or voyeuristic or creepy about, like,
right,
let's show a 15-minute rape scene or some shit.
Oh my gosh,
but rather showing that, like, you know, rather showing the aftermath, and that the season becomes about, like, even if she did go out and party and black out, that still doesn't earn you a rape. Like, that doesn't mean you deserve bad things.
The most gut-wrenching, like, disturbing, air quotes, rape scene in here is the moment when she realizes what has happened. And she's in a room with other people who figure it out before she does, you know, from what she's saying.
Right.
But the second
so, like, watching a room pity her for a second before she realizes it.
Yeah, and, like, when she arrives at it, that is the part that, like, you pull the covers up to your face and you're like, oh, shit. And
when you said you would watch this accidentally, I was glad you had, because you mentioned all of the shows that have similar titles and everything. This is one that I'd heard a little bit of good buzz on, and it had dropped off my radar because, fuck, there's a lot of TV on.
Yeah. And they just packing these titles full of syllables.
Yeah.
One more thing I'll say that I just found, like, really impactful is the fact that the character in the show, and I'm not sure how biographical this is, the fact that the character in the show is well known is you see her go directly from the assault episode to people like, hey, can I get a selfie with you? And she's still got the cut on her head. And she's on people's Instagram feeds, you know?
Yeah.
It's really, like, it makes you think of kind of, you know, like, celebrity and the age of social media and, like, you know, where people go from being people to being, you know, just there for the public. It's great stuff. And the thing is, it's not really dire. Like, these characters are funny and entertaining, and, like, when there's serious moments, they're very serious, but, like, in any realistic serious moment, people use comedy to cut the tension. And her friends, who look like the co-creators of this show, who play like her kind of support team in the show, they're all there for each other. And it's all, you know, they're looking out for each other. And, you know, one of them is kind of having the worst day she can imagine, but it just so happens to happen on the same time her friend is having an even worse day, you know? So we get to see her friend have to put that down, you know?
That's something I was going to ask you, Kyle. Is that this is listed as comedy drama. What kind of percentage would you say comedy drama? Like, is it 50-50? Is it more funny? Is it more drama? Like where would you put this?
You know, gosh, it may be close to the 50-50 mark. I kept trying to compare this to other shows because I think initially, if you don't give it a good shot, you're going to think of stuff like Sex and the City or Girls. But then the more I watched it, it kind of reminded me... I kept thinking, like, there's not really anything you can compare it to. Like, I keep thinking, oh, it's got some of the comedy elements of, like, a friendship comedy, but then some of the stuff Grant was saying about Euphoria, I don't know if you guys watched that.
Yeah, I didn't. I watched the first episode.
But I was kind of like, oh, this to me is like his description of Euphoria, you know? Just like people, like, making bad decisions and being put into, like, you know, predatory environments.
And here's the other key question I have for you, Kyle, based on this sounds intriguing. I don't know if I have time for another show, but if I were going to watch it, What percentage of it did you like because it was entertaining and gripping? And what percentage of it did you like because it was British?
Da, 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 da. That is the $1 million question now. Anytime we watch a British show. No, it's probably going to be over halfway. Well, yeah, over halfway. You got to be into British stuff. Everybody's talking with accents.
Is it 65-35 British? Be honest, Kyle.
It might be 70-40.
70-40?
That 70 for the British is all. There's a little Italian mixed in there too. A lot of Italian characters.
I see. Okay.
Because she goes to Italy to write. That's like her spot.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, it's really interesting. I think you do have to give the first episode all the way to the end, but they're only 30-minute episodes.
Okay,
so
I had to look up the exchange rate. That's the 800,000 pound question.
Yeah. But no, if you make it to episode 2, I think you'll really dig it.
All right, let's talk about the last show in this particular overstuffed HBO episode. I'll Be Gone in the Dark, which is the other show that we has the weird aisle title.
This is the documentary about that song by Death Cab for Cutie. No, wait, that's I Will Follow You into the Dark.
To the dark.
No, this is the documentary about Michelle McNamara, Patton Oswalt's late wife, and her true crime book involving the Golden State Killer, which actually got him caught.
Yes.
Wow.
So
now he was revealed just recently was a cop.
He was an ex-cop. Yeah. So this is. I didn't know this much about this case, and I didn't know that much about Michelle McNamara. What I know is through the lens of Patton Oswalt, who is one of the people who talks here. And this is based on Michelle's book. But basically, it's sort of Patton giving voice to his wife from the Beyond the Grave, and talking about this book that she wrote and how she sort of caught this killer. And my lensing of this is through one thing. One is this woman, Michelle McNamara, I don't know much about her, but I knew that she was a writer. I knew that she was amazing enough to be like Patton Oswalt's partner, which speaks volumes to me, and that she was the mom of this little girl, Alice, and that this girl lost her mom. Like, I get all of that stuff. So there's already tragedy in this. And then this interesting bit to mix in this other really dark tragedy of this guy who was a serial rapist in the 80s and who raped like 50 women and then started killing. He killed like 13 people. And it's like, I can handle dark. Like, I love Perry Mason. I love True Detective. You can give me dark fiction. But this was almost too like, after I watched this, I had to sit and watch Parks and Rec the rest of the night. Like, this was really, really dark.
I find Toy Story is a good palate cleanser for this kind of stuff.
I hit the unstitching the baby eyes scene in the episode 1 of Perry Mason and was like, and I'm good. And I backed out of Perry Mason and was like, what is next on the list of things to watch? I will catch the Golden State Killer. Nope. Like, I don't think I can back out of Perry Mason, turn the car slightly, and go into truer crime.
So did you not watch this?
No, so I couldn't watch it at all.
So it is very
knowing Oswald is narrating on it makes me want to give it another shot, knowing that this is probably done with great care and love. But I'm not a huge true crime fan.
It is very harrowing. It's one of the most harrowing things I've seen, and it is like. It does not shy away from talking about the rapes. They talk to several of the victims. But the focus of it is actually on Michelle McNamara, and it turns out, and again, this is obviously from her point of view and from his Patton's point of view. But it looks to me like, Patton was kind of a comedy giant. It looks like Michelle McNamara was the Patton Oswalt of true crime. Like,
that's the vibe I got off of when she ran a true crime blog, and they talked to these people, and they're like, oh yeah, I read every post on that blog, and they talked to the host of My Favorite is it My Favorite Murder? Yeah, and the host of that, which is one of those things I've heard of, is like a big thing. She's like, oh yeah, I loved her blog. The bit that I had seen in a commercial for or looking up the trailer for it was one of the other agents or officers or somebody with a badge who did nothing to stop this dude.
Yeah.
Saying, oh yeah, when we saw her files, it was like, holy shit, you have stuff no one has, this whole room of stuff. And like,
yeah, that's
granted, it's the times we're in, but I was watching that in the trailer going, you were officers who just simply didn't gather the stuff she gathered as a civilian.
So that's the other interesting thing I found here, is that basically she talks about going on these message boards where they were always trying to find these guys and all this kind of stuff. And the cops do not come off well here, because they didn't. There's all this stuff about the defund the police and all this kind of stuff. I feel like,
that's tricky to do. I mean, cops are so easy to make look good.
Yeah, it's like people are like, well, who are you going to call when if you get raped? And this is very much the evidence of like, well, you called the cops, they didn't do shit, and the people who solved this. And there's a meme that goes on that's like, well, who's going to solve all the murders? And like, well, white women on blogs. And
yes,
that is
I mean, like, if I need someone to show up with a notepad and a golf pencil, take my entire story awkwardly and not follow up, I'll call a cop.
This show is the personification of that. It's like, oh, yeah, the cops didn't do this. And in fact, the cop did do this, because the cop was the one who was the Golden State Killer. But all these amateur sleuths and these crime solvers who are not people trained with carrying a gun, they're solving these crimes because they're interested in them. These are the people who can solve a crime. Like, it took a long time, and so I
feel like law enforcement in this country comes down to Patton Oswalt's late wife and the don't fuck with cats people.
So I'm really interested to follow through on this and see how they caught him and what happens now, and like the actual descriptions of what he was doing is, like I say, they're so harrowing. I can see how anyone would nope the fuck out on this. Like, it is dark and it is real, and it is one of those things.
I want to give it a shot. I just want to see how far I can get into it. I'm also definitely going to recommend it to a couple of friends of mine who I know will flip their shit.
Yeah, like
for it.
Anybody who loves true crime podcasts, by which I mean every woman I know, will love this.
So I just drew a really interesting connection with this show and your palate cleanser, Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Did you know that the actor who plays, Sewage Joe?
Yeah.
The guy from the sewage department?
Yeah.
That he has a true crime blog where he's trying to catch some killer in, like, Southern California?
That makes sense, because he's a writer. He's not just an actor. He's one of the writers, so that makes sense.
But yeah, no. In fact, he was actually the first time where it was like I'd seen that blog before Serial. And then I feel like Serial kind of blew it out of the water, where it's like, all right, podcast ladies are solving crimes now.
Yeah. This is really good. It's, as with all things HBO documentary, it's really well produced, and they go deep into like this the people who are still around, the people who run the message boards and all that kind of stuff. They talk to everybody, and they talk to how they gather old case files and all this kind of stuff. It's a fascinating watch. It is very dark. It is very potentially triggery. But if this is a thing, if it sounds interesting to you, and if you think you can get through it, it is I think going to be a rewarding journey. I'm definitely going to be trying to follow the rest of it when I can get my headspace into somewhere I can watch it. For whatever reason, Perry Mason's fictionalized darkness is easier to handle than the real darkness of I'll Be Gone in the Dark. Yeah, and I guess that wraps it up for us this week. Thank you to all our patrons. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Les.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you, Randy, yes.
And until next time,
TV Dudes out.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener-supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV Dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith.
To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.